Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Carolyn here from Never Perfect Resin, and I had to show you this amazing little packet of transparencies that I found at Michael's craft store. They're Halloween, like spooky vibe transparencies, and I picked it up. I paid full price. Did not even care because I wanted them so badly, and I saw this one image. So we recently had what they call a supermoon, and because it is September, it actually also happened to be a harvest moon. Some people call it a blood moon. So I was thinking with this one in particular image, I wanted to see if I could create my own blood moon. Let's see if I can make this work. We're going to get into it right now. So straight out of the gate, this project I knew was going to test my patience, not even my patience, just test me. Problem number one. Problem number one is that I do not own, out of the literal probably hundreds of silicone resin molds that I own, did not have a mold that would perfectly house this image. I don't own any like perfectly square molds. So this is what I went with. It was this wavy tray. It's obviously oblong, a rectangle in other words. And I was hoping against hope that if I trimmed this guy down to size and then created a background behind it, that it would mask the fact that I had an image. You guys know what I'm saying? I knew this from the beginning that I was kind of taking a risk with that. So let's continue. So the first thing that I needed to do was mix up some resin. I needed just one clear coat on the bottom with which to embed this image. I am using the T-Expert 1-to-1 glossy epoxy resin, which I quite like. It works fantastically, and for this project, it's pretty perfect. It's not a deep pour or anything like that. So mixed everything up, and at this point, all I've done is pour my first layer down. I mixed up about 10 ounces, just FYI. Then I'm going to take my purple little silicone spatula and just place that image down, try and get all the air bubbles out, all of that good stuff. And at this point, we're ready to wait another 24 hours until that is cured and then go on to the next step. Here we are 24 hours later, and I've got a bunch of things going on here. So if you look to the left, I've already mixed up a few colors as well as just some good old white resin. I am using Cast and Craft color pigment for the white, and then I'm going to kind of break down the colors that I've got here. I also have some clear resin. So for this kind of golden color, I have used 2 pigment powders, and those are going to be which are both from Let's Resin, so Interference Gold, and then their Let's Resin mica powder in yellow. I also mixed up this pretty cool kind of like, I was going for blood orange, but with a little bit of like coppery effect. So I ended up using, this is a Pearl X powder. It's the copper. And then I'm using Let's Resin orange mica powder, and then I added also a little bit of Let's Resin alcohol ink in just red. Then for the color that you see on the bottom left, it's just a good old black. It is black alcohol ink, also from Let's Resin, but big thing, I only put 3 drops in, and this is probably 2 ounces of resin. I wanted it to still be opaque because I was really trying to create that same effect that transparency paper has. And at the end of the day, this is what I was worried about. At the end of the day, once I pop this out, is it going to be super obvious that there is a transparency behind everything? That is the crux of the entire project, you guys, seriously. So I have the idea. I'm going to pull it off the best that I can, but pretty much at the end of the day, holding this transparency image up into the light, I'm seeing dark blues and I'm seeing blacks. So I went with that transparent black resin, and then I'm also going to be using some midnight blue alcohol ink and black alcohol ink to hopefully create a background that is similar to the image that we see, so that hopefully all of those lines are going to be blurred and we won't even realize it's an image. I hope that makes sense. So what you're seeing me doing right here, I'm putting some clear resin down right against where I was pouring that opaque black resin. I'm trying to push everything out as much as I can, because now I'm actually going in with a little bit of that red Let's Resin alcohol ink, and I just put 3 drops straight on to the first layer of resin, and then I am pouring my colors all over that. So haphazard. This is kind of like, just me seeing what's going to happen. But what I really want is for all of these colors, the copper, the gold, the white, to hopefully stay within the sphere of the moon image, if that makes sense. Because I know this image is so transparent. Any colors, if they're going to bleed out, it's going to be pretty obvious. That is definitely why you are seeing me use that clear resin in and of itself. I kind of have just been pouring it in between the image and the rest of the mold, the edges of the mold. My hope is that it will help to push the colors in and the blacks and blues, the blues that I'm about to put down, out. Again, I really hope this makes sense. There's a method to my madness, but also foreshadowing, I'm not quite sure if this is going to work. So let's see what happens from here. All right, I waited about 25-30 minutes and my resin is still nice and wet. It's definitely spreading more than I was hoping. I was hoping these colors were going to stay within that moon, but again, we'll see what happens. So I am using my midnight blue and my black alcohol inks, and I'm just along these left and right sides, just going at it, doing some drops in there to hopefully replicate that night sky that we see on the image. I stepped away for probably an hour, but I knew I was going to have to check on this guy because I knew that the colors were going to suck themselves into the center. So that is where we are at this point. My resin is still wet enough that I can go ahead and put a little bit more of that midnight blue and black in. I want to do my absolute best to make sure that there is no clear resin peeking through at the end of the day. But again, resin loves to migrate to the center. So I'm happy about this for the colors, the gold, the orange, the whites, but I'm not excited about this for the alcohol inks. So at this point, I'm going to let this guy go and we're going to see what it looks like the next day. Okay, you guys, 24 hours later, here we are the next day. I have so many high hopes for this. I feel like it is looking fantastic. So at this point, we're going to unmold. We're going to see what we're left with, and hopefully we are looking fantastic and spectacular on the other side. So let me get this guy unmolded really quickly. And already the disappointment is sinking in. Do you see that? I'll tell you what that is. That is a Desdemona, the Newfoundland hare that somehow ended up right smack in the middle of my piece, looking like a smiley face, just laughing at me. But yeah, the big reveal, y'all, this is what we're looking like. Not a happy camper. Not a happy camper. First of all, that crazy divot on the left side that you see there, you know what that's from? That is from my heat mat. There must have been like an air pocket. Also, do we see how the image, that rectangle of an image is just right there, blasted in our faces? It is so obvious that there's just a transparency there. Not happy about any of that. But here's the thing. That blood moon, the moon itself, I think is looking absolutely spectacular. So I'm gonna keep going. We're not done. I have decided I must salvage this guy. I am going to do my best to kind of cut around the entire thing. I'm going old school. I'm using a handsaw because that's all I've got right now. And I'm just gonna go for it. So here I am in all of my glory, literally using a saw that is probably 50 years old. So funny story, but I have the most amazing resin workshop. The house that I bought, the owner before me was a woodworker, and he had this amazing workshop, and he left me a bunch of his hand tools, gadgets, all that stuff. So pretty awesome. So once I got my sides cut off, the next step, I used my drill press. I used the sanding bit. I started with a 2-inch sanding bit, and I'm basically just going around the entire perimeter of this piece, sanding as much as I can off, just to kind of get like a clean edge and something to work with. After that, of course, wouldn't you know it, my camera ran out of storage. But what I did after using this 2-inch sanding bit, I switched to a 3/4-inch sanding bit. And I sanded, I kind of wanted to recreate that mold shape with the kind of grooves and the waves and the nooks and crannies. So that's what I did. And then I used a hand sanitizer? No, that's what I was about to say, you guys. Oh my gosh. A hand sander to go ahead and sand the entire front flat of this piece to get ready for the final stage, which is for me to do a flood coat. All right, so at this point, I am ready for my flood coat. I taped my piece on the back so that any pour over is going to, I'll be able to pull it off very easily. I just took an X-Acto knife and kind of cut around the edges to get that tape off so it's nice and flushed. And then I am just placing this piece on a cup to keep it centered, and I've got my 1-to-1 epoxy resin mixed up. And at this point, all I've got to do is do my flood coat, do my little pour, do my whole situation. I'm definitely going to be careful to, I'm going to spread it around a little bit. I'm going to use I've got my gloves on, and of course my respirator, so PPE, you guys. But I do use my gloved hands to kind of take the fall off. I'll kind of pick that up with my gloved hands and saturate the sides of the piece so that everything is nice and coated and good to go. So, which you can see me doing right here. So at this point, once he is looking the way I want him to look and we're nice and level, 24 more hours, you guys. And oh, I hit it with a heat gun and spray some isopropyl alcohol on there, 99%, to get rid of any existing air bubbles, and we're good to go. We made it. I made it. I did it. I got the guy done. I got my blood moon done. At the end of the day, this project literally took me like 2 weeks to get done, just because of all the little mess ups and the having to wait in between layers and steps and all that stuff. But oh my goodness gracious, what do you guys think? I think it now definitely is a fantastic representation of a good old blood moon, that good old harvest moon, one of my favorite moons of the year. I really am loving those deep orangish, coppery tones with the golds, and there's even this kind of strange along the sides, on each side of the moon, it almost literally looks like, you know, craters on the moon. So I think this came out fantastic. I'm super happy with it. Definitely took me a while to get this guy done and into a finished product, but gotta say, I'm pretty happy with it. You guys, thank you so much for watching this one. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I recommend doing so. It is completely free, and it'll keep you privy to any resin videos that I have upcoming. Anyone that has given me a super thanks, thank you so very much. It all goes straight back into this channel. You're helping me to create content and get some fun stuff out there for you guys. All right, that is all I've got for this one. Until I see you on the next video.